part of the reason why we're coming in to tell you this news is that we are upgrading the forecast. It's much more impactful as we get closer to Christmas because we have a very active pattern coming. Now, over the last several days, it's just been issues with fog and with clearing, if it's going to clear or not. And we will talk about that as well. But what's coming really is going to be a very active pattern. And we're going to have multiple storms both before Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and then also after. So that's usually the busiest times. There's some travel absolutely on Christmas Day for those that celebrate or have somewhere to be. But before and after are very busy times as well. And that's exactly when we have very active weather with rain and snow with a bunch of details that are very important. So our first storm is going to be this upcoming Saturday, so just a few days from now. And then for Christmas Eve, we've got rain and we've got snow on actual Christmas Day. That's the one moment where we see a pretty solid break in all the action. And then right afterward, we're going to have a post-Christmas storm or series, and these ones are going to be colder. I put rain for the beginning and then snow for the second because that first round really is going to be warmer with higher snow levels than you would think. At the moment, this is where we are. We're just waiting for things to line up. We have high pressure that's still barely hanging on here, but it will be on the move here in just a little bit. So rain north of our area, the Pacific Northwest, has really been bearing the brunt of where the jet stream has been aimed. But now these storms are really gearing up. You see the classic comma shape here. What you see here behind this speckled cloud pattern indicates a couple things, that it's really cold air and then also a lot of strong winds that are driving the development of this area of low pressure. It adds up to finally an area of low pressure and a storm that is large enough to essentially start to move things along here, and our pattern is going to change. One of the early impacts, I know this is a long way away from us, but just yesterday, very large waves in Hawaii because of the winds generated by this area of low pressure. They're continuing to increase, and one of the big wave surf contests that you'll ever hear about, the Eddie ICAO contest in Waimea Bay over here in Honolulu, could run this upcoming weekend. That's how large these storms are out in the Pacific, and that's how it's going to change our pattern overall. Now, the issue at hand has been these low clouds and areas of fog that have been developing in lieu of the pattern changing. But again, low pressure, big enough, strong enough, the whole pattern is moving over. And then once this is gone, then we're going to have to be dealing with various levels of low pressure, moments in between, and storms that we have to forecast. So it's all about when it's raining and snowing, and then also the gaps. Certainly when you're doing a lot of travel, you want to nail those gaps, and we'll do our best at this early point, but always watch the forecast. It's going to change. And you know what? Getting more rain in the bucket is going to be fine. We've had our storms, but we're a little bit down in places like South Lake Tahoe, Stockton, Modesto. Southern California could really use a dose of that, but in the near term, it will mostly be based on central and also for Northern California. Southern California is lagging behind, and this current pattern that's moving in mostly favors Central California, Northern California, and the Pacific Northwest. So it's on par with what we've seen so far with rain in the bucket and also for snowpack. We're doing okay statewide. We've all had a dose of snow, much more in far Northern California for some of the Cascades and the Northern Sierra, but anything extra certainly is going to move things along because this is how you get the rain and snow that you need. It's all about these atmospheric rivers, and that's why the pattern is changing. This upcoming Saturday, area of low pressure taps into some of that deeper moisture that goes all the way down to the subtropics. If it makes that connection, sometimes it's over the top and it's cold, but sometimes when it makes that connection coming in from the subtropics, you tend to see rising snow levels, you tend to see more moisture, and then you also will see warmer temperatures as it pulls in warmer air as well. So we begin this upcoming weekend, Saturdays through part of Sunday. Then we get a bit of a break getting into Christmas Day, Christmas Eve, yes, but Christmas Day, we're looking at a gap. And then, as you can see, that pattern that's bringing in lots of moisture continues after Christmas and perhaps for even longer than that. Temperatures, just to discuss this since we're live, you do need to know that we've got temperatures that are in the 40s, and that's going to be a very difficult scenario. In the near-term forecast, it's all about if the clouds are going to break up or not. The models really like a moment where we are going to see at least some partial clearing, but we've had many moments. If that does not happen, when you're looking at some of the other models, we see that persistent low-level cloud layer that sticks around all day long. If that happens and you get no sunshine, your temperatures will be lower, it will feel colder, and it feels like the same environment from sunup to sundown, even in the middle of the night. Those gray, dark, damp days that are cold with very little wind. Even tomorrow, we're expecting low-level clouds and fog, and then high clouds drifting through. So the reason why I mentioned that is that if you're ready to break free from that kind of pattern, which is not everybody's favorite, this pattern will do it. The price you pay is rain and snow and also impacts to travel, but these are all the things that are coming. Now, in all of the forecast elements that I have, this is likely the very most important one because we're going to talk about the intensity of the rain and snow, the snow levels, as well as the timing. The first system that comes in on Saturday morning. This is widespread light to moderate valley rain. The snow levels will be challenged a little bit. It's very important to watch this layer here, how narrow it is. A lot of pink means it's on the bubble between 32 degrees and 36 degrees. And for some of these elevations, so it's a rain-snow mix or at least some flurries. And it carries over into Sunday. Then we move into more of an active pattern. Sunday evening, we've got rain coming in. Notice the snow levels are rising. That's why it's all green in the mountains there. These are high snow levels. I'm talking 8,000 feet, even 9,000 feet at times. And then for Christmas Eve morning, this is very early, it's almost all entirely green. This is the moment when we have very high snow levels. This is rain on snow in some cases, but it doesn't last very long because during the day on Christmas Eve, it will start to pull in much colder air behind the initial front that's moving now down to central and portions of Southern California, at least right on the edge. As that happens, the air it gets colder, the snow levels drop, and then you really start to see the snow impacts pile up. The bottom line, the most important thing to share about this is that if you have travel and you've got to get it done on Christmas Eve and you can't deal with the snow or you want to deal with it as little as possible, the earlier you do it on Christmas Eve, the better, because once you get to the afternoon and beyond, it's all snow for those mountain passes and below as well. Now we're waking up on Christmas morning, and coincidentally, that is the one big gap from far northern California all the way to Southern California, an all-day statewide gap in the system. Then we start to see a new system arrive. This is going to be the day after Christmas. We're talking about the 26th of December, and then we've got a much more potent system. This has got a lot of rain potential, a lot of snow as well. And I'm just going to go ahead and just fast forward over the next 10 days. What are we looking at ballpark-wise when you add up all this series of storms and how much potential moisture, it almost never maxes out like this, but this is the potential moisture that will be moving into our local area. Clearly, you're going to get higher amounts for higher elevations, coastal range, far northern California, and then along the Sierra. But as this translates down to the valley floor, we could be looking at several inches of rain in the Sacramento area. 1.5 to 2 inches for Stockton, and Modesto is going to be right in there with at least an inch of rain. Once you get north of Sacramento, we could be looking at 3, 4, 5 inches of rain. Once you start getting to the edges of the valley, on the higher end, 7 to 8 inches of liquid, some of which will be translated over into snow, just depending on where that snow level is once it arrives and the intensity of the storm as well. So just to summarize, this is a lot of information, but I think you should all lodge this in your head because this is why we're doing this. We are entering a very active period, both of travel and of weather, and that combination always throws people for a loop. So this is what is going to happen. Expect changes. What kind of changes? From what I just said right now, that's how it's looking on Thursday as we get closer. Timing, totals, little side things here and there. When things come in, when they go out, may change snow levels as well. So keep watching the forecast. Keep watching the updates. Stream it on your TV, stream it on your mobile device. Of course, watch the live shows as well because there's going to be many changes in the days ahead, and that's when you're going to nail your windows or miss them entirely. It starts in the weekend. We've got a lot of active weather before and after, and for some of you, if you've got flight plans, this is the final element of the forecast here as we're looking at things fairly quiet for a while. That weekend, while we are getting nailed with rain and some snow across the country, there is some snow on the East Coast and New England. So watch out for that this upcoming weekend. Then as we get closer to Christmas, this is now Christmas Eve morning, there is another system there with a lot of snow potential for New York, New England, along the East Coast, north of D.C. There's some rain, but that's usually not a big deal, but it does go through some hubs like Dallas. Denver, you're okay. Really, we are the highlight for the storm on Christmas Eve, but it moves out on Christmas. Most of the country is actually fairly quiet. You want a white Christmas? It's going to be New England, Canada, perhaps portions of Colorado, Montana, Salt Lake. But for us, we are going to be entirely devoid of weather for that one very important day, but on Christmas and then right afterwards, if your travel is after Christmas, just trying to get home, We've got a lot of very active weather stretching across the country with rain, with snow, and also with storms. So I would say post-Christmas travel is going to be busy, obviously, but the weather is certainly going to follow it during that time frame. Over the next 10 days, we are going to expect this very active period of weather starting on the weekend, going through just ahead of Christmas Day, as well as the first night of Hanukkah, and then the storm stacked up after that. Of course, you can always watch the live shows that we have and keep it here on the streaming app. We will have periodic live updates, and then whatever I've said just now will be replayed throughout the course of the day, and we'll have many updates because this very active pattern is going to last for 7 to 10 days once we get to the weekend and beyond.